Hello, hybrid. This is your first music mix, and I'm on a vacation. I'm out on the cruise ship with all the students, and I wanted to do a demo mix for you because you're kind of missing it in class. So I'm going to move pretty quickly here and not dwell too much on concepts that are demonstrated in other videos that are linked to in the instructions. But I just opened this up. Let's do the obvious. Let's go to the I/O, and whatever's here, I'm just going to delete it on all the tabs. I'm going to whip through here really quickly. Then I'm going to default, and I'm going to default my outputs. And I'm going to default my buses. And just like we did in that post mix, I'm going to take a stereo pair here, and I'm going to make this our print bus. And I'm also going to make a mix bus. And very importantly, I'm going to set my default output bus to go to that mix bus. So whenever I make new channels of any sort, they're going to go to the mix bus and not somewhere else, which can be really problematic. So I've got my stereo going there, and I didn't make my mono go there. So my mono needs to go to the mix bus. So that needs to be set up. With that done, I'm going to need to set this up. And of course, I'm going pretty quickly because you've seen me do this before. I need a stereo audio track for the print track. I'll hit the plus button here, and I will make a stereo aux input. And you can even name them here if you want. This one's going to be the print. And the next one is going to be the mix. And I've never actually done it like that. It's kind of cool. But with that in mind, I'm going to drag these over here. And let's just set this up and make sure it works. The print does need to be in input, and it needs to be solo safe. So I'm hitting Command S here. And I'm going to send that to the output 1 and 2. We're going to bus into this with the print bus. And the master needs to send it to the print bus. And its master, the mix master, is going to be fed by the mix bus. And we need to make sure all of these channels here go to the mix bus. And unlike your previous post mixes, you are free to not use bus limiting and metering on this. We're going to do that in later mixes. You're free to do it if you want. It's not a bad idea to go set yourself up with some sort of limiter to kind of control your mix as long as you don't overdo it. For example, like the FabFilter Pro L2 or something. And it's also not a bad idea to put a meter on your mix to kind of see what's going on. And if you want to target a level, -14 is a good place to go. So I'll go pull up the U-lean here, just like we've used already in class. All right, let's just make sure I've got audio. Okay, I'm going to press play, and this little kind of simple mix here. And I hear it. I hope you are hearing it. And there you go. So we know that the little routing scenario is working. Next thing we're going to do to set up, and this is a requirement this week, is anything, it's a requirement for the whole semester, anything that's a stereo channel. It's a real pain in the butt. Here we got drums on stereo here. It's really kind of a pain in the butt to put an EQ on each one of these, and a compressor in each one of these, and an aux send on each one of these. Like if I did that and I said, okay, here's a FabFilter, every time I adjusted one, I'd have to go adjust the other. And this can take a long time. So it's a much better thing to do is, since this is a known stereo channel, drums left, right, to combine these into one stereo channel. So this is the process, and it is demonstrated in more depth in the other video. I'm going to make a new stereo audio track. That's pretty obvious. And then I'm going to select on one. Notice I'm using my macros here. I just went to the grabber tool, and I'm going to hold Control down. And while I'm holding Control down, it doesn't matter where I move the cursor. It will only lock it in place, so I can't accidentally drag it earlier or later. And now it is combined into this one drums channel. At this point, I can make the drums orange because it's a rule. The drums always have to be orange. And then I can go ahead and select these two guys here, and I can delete them. And now I've got a stereo drum channel. The bass, of course, is mono. The acoustic guitar is a little bit debatable. This one you might want to be stereo, might want to be mono. It's a double. This happens a lot in rock and roll, where you have a double. Ooh, my solo's in a weird mode. I got to fix that. Solo mode. I want to be in latch. So if I solo these guys, and Oop, that sounds weird. And if I pan them left and right, you could totally tell that they are two different guitars. And so the question is whether you want to put those on one channel and be able to share their EQ, or do you want it to be two and have them kind of be compressed and EQ'd together? And that's your choice sonically. You get to do whatever you want with that. At the moment, I'll combine them into stereo. You don't have to do that, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I'm going to go stereo, and I'll just call this AGT. That stands for acoustic guitar. And I'm going to select them both. Of course, I went to the grabber tool. I'm holding control down, and I'm dragging that down. And I can delete the old ones. And side note, one negative about having them combined together is if I put a compressor on it, that both sides will compress exactly the same. And you can always undo that if you want. This is an interesting thing in Pro Tools to check out. Say you put a compressor on the acoustic guitar. We'll go with something really easy, like a CLA2A. I hope I've got that plugin. I do. You can always, right now, both channels will be compressed exactly the same, but you do have an option in Pro Tools to if you instantiate the multi-mono version of the same plugin, which I think they have. Now you get this little control over here, and you can unlink them. So the left side can compress differently than the right side, which is kind of cool. And you can just go between the two and see what's going on. So that's kind of useful. Anyway, I think we're kind of set up, so this is a great time to pause for the first video. Have a great moment. I will show you mixing in a moment.